Hello, aspirants. Namaste. Welcome to the second episode of Get Set Go. Today, on this second episode of Get Set Go, we have an interesting personality, Mr. Yashodhan Taskhedkar, in the house. A 99.99 percentiler in ATMA, 99.92 percentiler in MBA CET, All India rank 4 in the final selection list of JBIMS 2015, the year when JBIMS had conducted GDPI along with the qualifying exam. The next one is quite interesting. Okay, so counted tigers for Tiger Census 2013. The project government of India. Yeah, you heard it right. He actually counted tigers, and yeah, so one of the finest mentors that you can have. In fact, Yashodhan has been a mentor to me for the past 5 years now. So, on the behalf of Toppernicus family, I welcome you to the show, Yashodhan. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Aniket sir, for calling me.
Yeah, it's our pleasure, sir. Without much masala bazi, I will straight away start the discussion. So Yashodhan, every MBA aspirant has this thought in mind कि मुझे MBA तो top tier B school से ही करना है, and which is quite correct. Since you have completed your MBA from the CEO factory, I would like to know from you कि JBIMS का आपके life पे क्या impact रहा है?
It has been one of the most important milestones for me in my life, in my professional as well as personal life. So professionally, to be to complete your MBA from one of the top B schools in India is still extremely important, right? Because if you see the job descriptions of many of the top companies for the topmost roles, they specifically mention that you have to be from a tier 1 MBA school. So they also specify I'm FMS, then in some cases JBIMS and all of that. So I feel that it's very important to have that degree with you. In addition to that, what JBIMS has given me is that competitive spirit. So most of the students who joined JBIMS with me were toppers in their respective schools or graduation and all of that. And now in JBIMS, all those toppers were going to compete with each other. So, and to be very honest, none of them was like padaku, right? They always had something else to their personality. It wasn't just studies. So everyone was unique in their own ways. So it was a very interesting combination of people, and I think this happens only in the top B schools because the filtration process is so stringent, and especially in my batch because we also had GDPI and WAT, so it became even more interesting to see all the candidates who were selected. They're amazing batch of people, and I really admire many of them and look up to them, take their advices when making my career decisions and all of that. So it's really important to be in that top category. But having said that, I wouldn't say that if you don't get into a top B school, it's the end of, because in my experience, most of the people currently who are the CXOs in various different companies, many of them don't even have an MBA to support them. So it's just that it gives you a platform, it gives you a push into your career, but it's not the answer to everything. And apart from that, obviously, I really am blessed to have met the friends that I met in JBIM, especially hostel lot, right? So for the people who don't know, JBIMS has hostel only for the male candidates. There are only 25 seats in there, and so you form a really strong bond with the 25 people. So for the other 24 people, you stay with in the hostel for 2 years. So our batch, we called ourselves Havan 3.0. Our seniors called themselves Havan 2.0, and of course, your batch was Havan 4.0. So shout out to Havan 3.0 guys if they are watching this podcast. Not podcast. What is this? This is a what?
Interviews.
Oh, yeah, what a interview.
Yeah, I think some great points, Yashodhan, and also a great institute or college also helps you to become a better person, thanks to the many points that you pointed out. Well, coming to the next point, Yashodhan, so a typical exam calendar of an aspirant looks heavily loaded. So maybe buffet meal की feeling भी उसे आती होगी, because there are so many exams served in the plate, and he has to decide which one to take, which one not to take, which one to go first with. So I would like to know from you first, since this can be confusing at times, how should a student plan his calendar, the exam calendar? So which exam to take, or how should he prepare for the XYZ exams? So what's your take on that?
Okay. Actually, having so many options in front of you is, in fact, a very good thing because you get those many opportunities to succeed, right? Had there been only one exam for all, uh, it would have decided your fate for the entire year. If it went bad for someone, then his entire year would have gotten spoiled. But in this case, in MBA's case, you have CAT, you have ZAT and MAT, IFT, CET, SNAP, and all of that. And they come in sequence. None of the exam overlaps any other exam. So it's a good thing. And I totally believe in the concept of not keeping all your eggs in one basket because you can see my experience as well, right? I was preparing for CAT and I was doing very well in the mocks. And on the day of the exam, it didn't really work out for me. The system shut down 3, 4 times. I was moved to a different place, and then I had to continue giving the exam while the others had ended the exam. So there was a lot of noise and all of that. So I ended up not scoring extremely well in CAT. So had it only been one exam that I was attempting, I would have lost a year. And right, I was preparing after having left my job. So many of the students might be in a similar situation. So my advice would be register for all the exams and give all the exams because you never know what clicks for you.
Right, very well said. So what I can infer from what you told is that the basics remain the same,
Yeah,
and what the aspirants can do is maybe be thorough with the basics and select the specifics of the respective exams, and maybe practice those specifics, and of course taking mocks will help in the long run.
correct.
So
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah. So moving to the next point, so it's November already, and most of the students, they are in the third gear or in the top gear of their preparation. Uh, but then it happens that a particular day, or it's not your particular week or a day, and then you start having doubts in your mind कि मैं मेरे ड्रीम बी स्कूल में जा पाऊंगा या नहीं. So even you might have faced such situations, right? So how did you tackle such situation?
Right. One thing, like I said earlier, don't keep all your eggs in one basket. So even if that day is bad for you, it doesn't mean the next day is gonna bad. So more exams is better. That always keep that in your mind. And second thing is you only need one seat out of all those top B schools. So if there are 2,000 seats, your goal is not to get all those 2,000, right? It's only one seat that you want somewhere in amongst all these maybe 10, 15 good B schools. So just keep reminding yourself of that. Don't stress out too much because see, this is just the first phase. When you actually get into the post MBA phase, that's where you really see the stress that comes into your life. So this is just a stepping stone towards your success. Don't really stress out too much. You will do well if you keep your stresses to the minimum.
I think I really found that point quite interesting, that आपको तो सिर्फ एक सीट चाहिए है. So be focused on the absolute, I will say, because with so many channels today, students tend to get distracted कि मैं यहाँ पे place 2 फिलहाल मेरा ये rank है, but then of course like you said, one needs to be focused, right? So going to the next discussion point, Yashodhan. Uh, this is a typical situation based question, and you might have faced such questions during your placement process. So,
Mhm.
yeah, so suppose I am an aspirant and I've decided to write MBA CET, and today I'm starting with the data interpretation section preparation. And since you were good at quant and DI, I would like to know from you, how should I go about my preparation for DI?
Right. That's a very interesting question. So it brings me to the point that first of all, don't focus on certain sections when you are starting your preparation. You have to be good at your basics of maths. Only then you can become good at something else related to it. So first of all, if I only talk about CET, right? CET is an exam of endurance. It tests your endurance. So, how is it different from CAT? You have to solve 200 questions in 150 minutes. So, the thing to keep in mind is how can I be accurate as well as how can I be very fast. So accuracy is obviously it's directly proportional to the practice that you do. You realize how there's a certain type of questions that always come. It's not that there are an infinite number of questions. Second, you need to have very good control on your mental calculation capability. Uh, as soon as you have to uh, as soon as you touch your pen to the paper to calculate, then that means you're losing time. You're not efficient enough. So try and do maximum calculations in your head. The best way to do that is start with understanding the ratios and fractions associated with them. So what I mean by that is 1 by 2 is 0.5, 1 by 3 is 0.33, 1 by 4 is 0.25, and so on, everything up to 1 by 25. I still remember most of those. So I use that in my day-to-day life. And so I work a lot with the US guys, and they're really surprised when they see Indians calculating so fast in their heads because they are not able to do it. At least most of them. This is what I've seen. So uh, if we are blessed with such good uh, insights into maths right from the start of our educational lives, why not utilize them to the fullest? So improve your mental calculation abilities. Second exercise that you can do is on the column on 1 to 15, uh, and then choose one element in a row, one element in a column, and start mentally calculating different things. So if it's 7 and 8 here, 7 plus 8 is 15, then do 8 minus 7 or 7 minus 8, write it down, do multiplication, division, do n number of operations, and do all of that mentally. So the end goal is to practice this every day at least for 5-10 minutes so that you get so used to it that it doesn't even take 1 second for you to come to the answer. So this is how you can improve on this DI category. Also, one of the things that I would specifically like to mention is people don't read the question. So to give you an example, if there's revenue mentioned in one graph, in the other graph there are expenses mentioned, and you have to calculate the profit. People don't understand that revenue minus expense is the profit. So many of them will go back and say, "Oh, profit was not given. Profits graph was not given. So how could I have solved that question?" So that's not right. If it's an MBA entrance test and you are aspiring for that top B school, you should have the maturity to understand all of this. So yeah, just read your stuff.
Well, I think very well said. And I completely second your idea about reading the question clearly, because the question is on data interpretation, and the word interpretation clearly states that you need to understand the data first. But most of the time, students tend to rush into the calculation part and then end up scoring less. So, perfectly said. So Yashodhan, moving to the next discussion point, and I fear that you may curse me for this. So, but this is on aspirants' demand. So, in case you can recall, what was your first mock score, and how many mocks did you take during your CET preparation?
Right. That's impossible for me to recall. It's been five years, I think, since
Yeah,
or 6 years since I gave my mock. So you would know, right? I started with CAT preparation. And so by the
yeah.
time I reached CET, there were very few things that I had to practice. For example, visual reasoning. That was the only portion which was very different from the other exams. Uh, but what I would like to highlight here is importance of analyzing your mocks. So it can be a single digit score in your first mock. Don't bother about it. So your ultimate goal is what's your score in the exam gonna be? And so the time duration that you have in between, just have to dedicate it to preparation for that final day, right? So don't really bother about what my score is in the first mock because go and analyze it. You'll realize even though you think you know about a few things like profit and loss, who doesn't know about profit and loss? But while solving a sum on that, if the question is just twisted in certain way, you should be able to figure that out, and slowly you will be able to figure that out as you prepare for it. So because you are giving your first mock after having not prepared a lot or not even touched studies, it doesn't make sense to focus a lot on that score. Just that, understand, learn from there onwards, prepare a proper plan.
Okay, very well said, and you're right. So the point is quite subjective since one needs to assess one's preparation and then maybe can decide how many mocks he or she needs to take. So Yashodhan, we come to the concluding discussion point of this session. So I know for a fact that you work with one of the major automakers of the world post graduation, and then for 2 years, if I'm not wrong, and then you left the organization because you wanted to prepare wholeheartedly. So there are many aspirants who are confused whether who are working right now, who are confused whether they should leave their job completely and prepare wholeheartedly, or whether they should prepare side by side. So what suggestions do you have for them?
That is the thing which probably scares most of the people, and even I was in that position, was will it give a bad impression in my interviews or in my resume? Will it show as a gap? And that's a very valid point because I've been asked that questions multiple times during my interviews. So even in interview, when I was interviewing for JBIMS, I was asked that question, and my answer was very straightforward. It was real. It was simple. That I was working in a manufacturing job. It 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 was a very physically challenging job because you have to stand on the shop floor for a long time. You have to be in that heat, be very physically active the entire time. And so it was my personal opinion that I wasn't able to focus as much on studies, even if I had time after coming back home because I was so tired. And I felt that if I focus some more, I had better chances of converting a good college. So that was purely personal reason. So I left my job. I prepared for 4 months for CAT. Got decent percentile, not as much as I had expected, but it was okayish. And but it really helped me preparing for the other exams also. So it's a personal choice. Don't worry too much if the reason is okayish. Go for it because ultimately it only matters if you're able to convince the interviewer that you really had to leave your job.
Right. So the aspirants they need to assess their conditions, and then they can decide what suits them perfectly. So I think this has been an interesting discussion, an excellent one, and it's always great to listen to Yashodhan. Thank you so much, Yashodhan, once more for being on the show. Yeah, and I strongly believe that the aspirants have loads to carry home today. Yeah.
Thank you. I wish you all the best for your venture.
Thank you so much. So I request all the aspirants to please like and share this video. I will also request you to please subscribe to this channel so that you have access to some interesting content. There is one announcement. I will request all of you to post in your queries regarding CET preparation in the comment box. So from next time, we will pick some of the questions from the box and will ask the guests to answer those. So please put in your queries in the comment box. Thank you so much. Cheers to great discussion.
See you. Thank you.